Hello and welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have an interesting stranger on every single week. And this week it is Oliver.
How's it going?
Known on Instagram as Fixie, is that right?
Correct.
Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you go with that name instead of your actual name?
Because
I feel like Oliver Clark is a pretty cool name.
Yeah, I mean it's a family name, I guess you could say. Like my dad's from England, so. The reason that I went with Fixie was because when I first started my Instagram account, I was riding a fixed gear bike everywhere for that was my main mode of transportation. So
is that tough? It's tough to ride a fixed gear bike, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Especially if you hit a hill or something.
Mm-hmm. It was a lot. It was a lot of exercise. I was probably riding 50 to 60 miles a week.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm. But I was in the best shape of my life. It felt great.
Is that how old is the Instagram account? Like a couple of years?
I mean, I started a new account. I felt like I got stuck in a creative rut where I just guess I kind of felt like I started to become a slave to my followers. Okay. And so I was not pursuing things creatively that interested me. Sure. More so as I felt like I felt the need to produce content that they like, that my followers would like versus what I enjoyed.
So how many followers did you have on that account?
I had about 8,000.
Wow, that's a
before.
Lot. Mm-hmm. And you just that's a crazy thing to walk away from too, because if you're building that and
right,
you could make money and do that as a job eventually.
So basically what I did is I shut it down. It just went inactive. I kind of deactivated it. Okay. And it was deactivated for a year and a half, and I've been on my new account. Yeah. It's the same name as my old account. I just switched the names over to a fresh account, without a whole bunch of fake followers. But what I did is I reactivated it recently, and I deleted all of the content that I'd posted on there, and I changed the name to Ali and Annie Photography, which is my new business. Yeah. So we now have a bunch of followers on there, which is great. So we can reach a broader spectrum of people. Yeah. So we can go into that. What kind of spurred you to start a new business and kind of go down that route? Because you guys do photography for everything, right? Anything. Oh yeah. Weddings, whatever anybody would want. Yeah, it's absolutely. Not specific, is what I mean. No, not really. I mean, I think that there are certain things that we are more interested in taking photos of those than others. Yeah. But the photography in general is just something that interests us. But to kind of get to the root of that, I guess it was about 5 or 6 months ago. This is I don't really, it's kind of a little bit embarrassing, but I'm really happy I did it. Yeah. I was the operations manager at the Italian Community Center. Oh, cool. So I was just basically oversaw daily operations for the catering venues. So the banquet spaces for the Bartolotta Restaurant Group. Oh, okay. We were in the middle of doing a 700 person breakfast. Wow. And, we weren't in the middle. We had just kind of gotten to the tail end of it, but we realized that, there were 30 people who were dairy free, that we had forgotten to give them their fruit plates for dessert, because everybody else, I forgot what the dessert was, but
dairy product.
It had dairy in it.
Yeah.
And we just completely forgotten. And it was 45 minutes after, the dessert service had happened that I just kind of realized, and I was like, whoa. Yeah. And then I just kind of I don't really know how to describe it. I went into the kitchen. Yeah. I went into the walk-in cooler, and I was by myself, and it was really cool. And I was just it was quiet. The fan was going, and I was just I can't do this. Yeah. This isn't me. This is when I was a little kid, I wasn't staring out the window at, the birds and, the trees and everything, thinking I want to, cater 700 person, this is
that's not the career path you envisioned.
Right. The only way that this is benefiting me is by, in that it's financially supporting me. But other than that, I'm wasting my life doing something that is really of no interest to me.
Yeah, and that's like a 9 to 5, so you're doing that like 40 hours a week, something that you don't like.
It was more than that because I was salaried. So I'll never forget the first week that I started working there. I worked 75 hours.
Oh my!
And that was my first
week. Yeah,
right. And you
don't even start slow,
right?
Yeah.
And, you'd think, okay, we'll give them like maybe even less than 40 hours, just so you can get kind of hit the ground running, get used to things or whatever. But like 75 hours, that was like my first week.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, we agreed on a salary, but like you're making me work twice the amount of hours. Like this is not gonna work. So so it was pretty high stress, I think, from the outset. But yeah, I literally I went up to.
What do you think made that change in that one day? Like, what do you think like clicked in your mind that was like, I'm done?
I think it was a build-up. It was probably a build-up.
Yeah.
And I was just, and it's also kind of a service industry thing where everybody talks to you like you are less than.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's just kind of like, even though they may not
for a while, so I get that feeling.
Right. Like even though they may not like genuinely think that you are less than, they talk to you like you're less than.
Yeah.
And that's just like very degrading to the human spirit, I feel like.
Yeah. And you can take it, for like a couple weeks, and then it starts to build more and more, and then you just start to internalize it and just get more mad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that a lot of the frustration and the anxiety, because it was a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I bet.
In that position, like doing a 700 person breakfast, I'm managing a staff of, 15 to 20 employees and organizing them to hit everybody with service, water, everybody clear everybody's plates, get coffee out there. I mean,
it's like having 8 full restaurants in one area.
Exactly. It's like doing an entire night's worth of service at one time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very stressful. But yeah, I felt like that position was really starting to stifle my creativity. It was starting to kind of put a damper on it in the sense that like,
you'd go home and be like,
right.
I don't want to do
it. Like by the time I got home, I'd just be like, no, like I literally just want to lay in bed and eat crab rangoon.
Yeah,
like that's all I want. That's all I want to do. So I went up to my boss and I just said, "Hey, I need to talk to you privately." And I pulled him outside, and I just started crying. And I just said, "I can't do this anymore. This is not me. I am not happy."
Yeah,
and I have had to start, taking anti-anxiety medication, and I'm not really sure if it's because of this position, or if it's because of, where I am in life, what it is. But I know that right now, this job is not good for me.
Well, that's good for you. That's a hard thing to do.
And he said, okay, so, do you want to put in your 2 weeks, or do you want to be done today? And I said, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I need to be done today. Like, I need to just here are my keys.
Yeah.
I need to leave.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I took a couple weeks, and I didn't really have a job. I just kind of relaxed. I just, just spent time focusing on self-care.
Yeah.
And
was that hard for you to do? Because I feel like if I'd be like scared a little bit.
I mean,
it would be hard for me to relax. Yeah.
Right. It definitely was. But I'm in a very, very fortunate situation right now to where I have a roof over my head, and I don't have to worry about that. I'm living, my girlfriend, my wonderful girlfriend, and I are living with her great aunt,
cool,
who owns a duplex in Sherman Park.
Oh, that's nice.
So she lives on the top floor, and she was literally just using the first floor for storage. Oh. And I mean, it was,
I'll live there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we approached her and we're like, well, how about, we help you out around the house. We'll plow the snow in the winter. We'll mow the lawn. We'll take care of her cats, because she's got a lot of cats. And I mean, it just kind of became a trade.
Yeah.
So we get to live there now for free. She doesn't charge us rent or anything. So
how is living there? Do you like it? Or
it's been really nice. Yeah. One thing that has happened since we lived there is that her aunt was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Oh,
so which has kind of necessitated us being there even more.
Yeah,
a little bit.
For
so
sure.
It's nice to be close.
Yeah,
because that's basically that's my girlfriend's mom. That's the way that that relationship works.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I'm sorry to hear that. That's awful. But,
I mean, she's gone into chemo, and the cancer has shrunk by 2/3. So it's started to shrink. It's not curable, but it's responding very well.
That's good.
So that's it's about as good of a diagnosis as we can get right now.
Yeah, because the only reason I asked that is because Sherman, you said Sherman Park, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of gets a bad rap sometimes as being like kind of dangerous and not a very nice place to be. I obviously don't live there, so I don't know. But like, you don't get that vibe at all, do you?
No, it's really interesting. So her, we're just gonna say her mom. So her mom is actually a retired homicide detective for the city of Milwaukee.
I don't think I've ever met a person that does that.
Yeah,
I've only seen it on TV.
Homicide, and then she also did drug task enforcement.
Wow, so she's really in there.
So she was there for a while. She's I feel secure there just for that reason. But then also it's really interesting. We live in a pocket of Sherman Park that is like 95% Hasidic Jews.
Oh,
so
I wouldn't even know that they were there,
right?
Either.
Yeah, so it's very, very interesting. Like on the weekends, you see them walking to. I'm assuming it's a synagogue. In traditional clothing, and it's very It's like it's almost like you're stepping back in time sometimes when you see them all walking down the street and just like this very, very traditional, giant fur hats and all that stuff. So it's a very diverse community, and I think that is probably like why I enjoy it. Like I feel at home. I don't like to be in like a very like
like a suburb.
Exactly. Like I don't. I don't know. I enjoyed that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So back to like photography. When did you start, and like why? Initially, were you always creative, like as a young kid, or?
Yeah, I mean, I always enjoyed photography. I guess I started taking pictures, like honestly, probably like when I was in like 7th grade was when I bought my first digital camera. So probably that would have been like 2002.
Wow.
Was when I got my first digital camera. It was like 2 megapixels.
Super blocky.
It was like, it was terrible. Yeah. And I just like remember taking like close up macro pictures of like turtles and like flowers and bees and like whatever. I mean, then like I kind of set it aside for a little bit. It's always kind of like been like a hobby of mine, but never something like I've like gone into like full force necessarily. When I most recently got back into photography was back home in St. Louis when I started my account Fixie. And I really just started the account because I was riding my bike everywhere. I saw more things because I wasn't in a car or in a bus, and I didn't have that glass and metal boxing me in. I was just free. I was on a bike. I could go wherever I wanted. I could go on the sidewalks. I could go on the grass. So you just see a lot more. So I wanted to start taking pictures of just what I saw. And one day I biked past an abandoned hospital.
Saw that in
St. Louis that they were tearing down.
Maybe I saw the abandoned church.
There's a lot of abandoned stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
You're from St. Louis, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of my theme is like abandoned buildings and stuff. So I made a post on my Instagram and I just said, "Hey, I'm thinking about going and exploring this abandoned hospital tonight. Would anybody be interested in coming with me?" And a couple of people messaged back, and we met up that night, and we went and explored this like 12-story abandoned hospital in St. Louis.
Wow.
And we took a bunch of pictures and we started posting the pictures, and then we just started getting followers. Like people just started like following us because we were just like posting, these pictures from inside these abandoned buildings. And people were like, "This is crazy. Like, what are you doing?" Especially at night. Like, why are you going in there at night? That's so scary. I don't know. I mean, we're posting like all sorts of crazy pictures of like 50-gallon drums of like asbestos and like, like all sorts of crazy stuff. And then we just started driving around and we realized that there were abandoned buildings everywhere. And so we just started exploring them all. I mean, and there's schools. There's so many schools, abandoned schools in St. Louis. There's probably like 10 to 15 abandoned schools in St. Louis. Jeez. I mean, full-size schools, like high schools.
Wow.
I mean, we would explore churches, funeral homes. I mean, you name it, like hotels. I mean, just everything.
Anything.
Yeah.
So where in St. Louis did you grow up?
Webster Groves.
Did you like it? Like, was it?
I
don't think I've ever been to St. Louis.
Yeah, St. Louis is very interesting. It's very segregated.
Okay. Similar to Milwaukee.
Yeah, very similar to Milwaukee. Yeah. But the area of St. Louis that I grew up in is very affluent and very white.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably like part of it was that another part of it that interested me is that there's this imaginary line in St. Louis where it's like, you know, and it's if you ever go to St. Louis, you'll have to check it out. It's called Delmar Boulevard. And like once you just go like a block north of it, I mean, there's abandoned houses everywhere.
Wow.
And it's just like, you know, there are people, you know, sitting on, you know, front porches, shooting up. I mean, it's just really bad.
Yeah.
But if you go like one block south, you have gated communities with like $1 million houses and like,
That's
you know,
nuts.
BMWs outside. It's insane. It's ridiculous. Like it's that stark of a contrast.
That's crazy that it
It's
happens
really,
that quickly.
Oh, it's like 2 blocks. Like it's 2 blocks, and like you go from 85% college graduation to like 5% college graduation.
That's nuts.
I mean, you go from like house values are like $35,000 on average to like $800,000 on average.
Yeah,
and just like a 2 block difference.
Do you think that's just historical and it just kind of just
I think it's
mounted
white flight.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's white flight. But that was, I guess, growing up, like we never really had a reason to go north of Delmar.
Yeah.
Like we didn't. Like nothing that we ever needed was up there. Like Chuck E. Cheese's wasn't up there. Walmart wasn't up there.
Yeah.
You know, like none of the restaurants that we went to were up there. There just wasn't any reason for us to go up there, but that's like half of St. Louis.
Yeah.
You know? So here I am in college and like 18, 19 years old, and I'm like, I have, you know, my own car, and I'm not living at my parents' house. I'm living at, you know, the college dorms, and I'm kind of like in North St. Louis now. Like that's where my college was in the University of Missouri St. Louis is in North St. Louis. So I was up there. Yeah. So I mean, it was like right next to the highway, so I didn't have to like drive through it all the time, but like I was exposed to it, and it just made me interested. I was like, I've lived here my entire life, and I have no idea what's up here. Yeah. And so I just started exploring, and that's really what I think got me interested in taking pictures again, was just documenting the poverty, the abandonment, just the contrast and the segregation that you can see just on that street of Delmar. So I did a series called North of Delmar, and took pictures and interviewed people, and you know, went to like, you know, crack houses and talked to prostitutes, and I mean, it was really some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean that has to be some intense like just stories from people and just interacting with people that, you know, like are probably close to rock bottom, you know, and they don't have any options to like do anything else.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was one guy that I interviewed who was living in a homeless encampment in downtown St. Louis, and like 2 months after I talked to him, his tent caught fire, and while he was inside, and he died. You know,
that's unbelievable.
I mean, he literally hit rock bottom. Yeah. You know,
jeez. So. And that's the craziest part to me, is that people are like, yeah, you know, we're fine. Right. That's for you, by the way, if you want it.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. People are like, yeah, you know, it's not, you know, things are getting better and blah blah blah, and things are fine. And maybe in some places that's true, but like here in Milwaukee, it's like things aren't that much better than they were. You know what I mean? Like I run a lot, and I ran from here to Franklin, which is like 20 minutes south.
Oh, wow.
And so I ran through like...
On the Oakleaf?
No, I ran through the city. So I ran through like Walker's Point and like places in there. And it was a similar kind of thing where it was like a lot of abandoned stuff, a lot of people staring at me. You know, I don't think they see a lot of like just white dudes running through their neighborhood. A lot of places, especially like here in Milwaukee, and it's been documented a lot through like different reportings that like it is so segregated still. And it's pretty crazy.
It is. And I think the thing that kind of drove me to want to document it and to show people is that I felt like a lot of the people who had the power to do something about the problems in North St. Louis never had any reason to go there. Like they didn't know that there were problems.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Because it's
Sure.
just like it's out of sight, out of mind.
Easy to ignore.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because if you don't have any reason to go there, then it's not really bothering you, is it?
Sure.
It's not a problem that you have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it's very impoverished in North St. Louis. So I kind of wanted to expose that. And, you know, I at one point actually had a anonymous someone who claimed to be a St. Louis city politician threatening me over social media about the photos that I was posting.
Saying what? Like take them down or like?
Yeah, basically. Or I'm going to have you arrested.
For what?
Because I was taking pictures of people using drugs, shooting up heroin, smoking crack.
Sure.
So basically, I guess like promoting that, or I don't really know.
I don't know the legal ramifications of that either.
It never developed into anything more than just a social media threat. But, you know, I think that I kind of hit a nerve, which was a good feeling.
But that's the thing that people need to do more of, you know, is like go there and like show that this is happening. Right. And it is real.
Right. I mean, we can't just
people need help.
Right. We can't just bury our heads in the sand. That doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like the problem still exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Just ignoring
away
it.
And don't
right.
look.
It doesn't go away.
Yeah. So do you do any of that here in Milwaukee? Have you like explored in the more impoverished parts of Milwaukee and done any like photography like that?
Yeah. So that's actually been what's interesting about I guess me leaving my job is that what I've been doing in the meantime while Anissa and I are getting our business running up and going is I've just been doing Uber Eats. Yeah. So I've literally just been doing food delivery. But what's really interesting about it is that it's
everywhere.
Yeah. Is that it takes me all over. Yeah. Like it's exposing me to like different areas of the city that I've never seen before.
Sure.
You know, just in the past 3 weeks, for example, I've found 3 abandoned churches. Like I'm really excited about that.
Go back. Yeah.
So I mean, it's helping me find different places of interest that I might want to take pictures of. It's helping me get a better feel for the city. And I think that's a really cool thing. And I actually have been thinking about that lately. Like if I ever move to another city, I think for the first couple of months, I would love to just do Uber Eats. Yeah. To just like get a, better feel for the layout of the city and, just I learn the different restaurants and around town. And I think that it's a really good way to learn a city.
It forces you to explore.
Exactly.
And it pays you to do it.
And it pays me too. Yeah. And if they don't show up after 5 minutes, I get to keep their food too.
Oh, really? Yeah, you can just take it off.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Take it back.
So
so I guess your Instagram account, I mean, the photos you have are pretty amazing. Like they're photos that like I aspire to like take one day. And you just traveled, not just, but like you were on the West Coast, right? Where'd you go from?
We flew into Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And
I was just there too, yeah.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful?
Oh, it's crazy. It seems like a crime to take photos out there because it's just like you can just do this.
I know.
And everything looks good.
Everything. So we flew into Portland and then we rented a car and so we stayed in Portland for 2 days and then we went down to Eugene. And then we stayed in Eugene, Oregon for 2 days. And then from Eugene, we went to Crater Lake National Park. Okay. And then we camped there for 2 days. And then we drove down to the Redwoods. And then we spent one night in a hotel and one night camping down there in the Redwoods. And then we drove down to San Francisco and finished off in San Francisco.
What was your favorite part?
The Redwoods.
By
far.
I haven't gone there yet.
Oh yeah. It's unbelievable. Like I cried when I saw them the first time. Like I was driving down the road and I saw my first redwood and I just a tear just came down my face.
They're massive.
Well, it's just very humbling. Like it just makes you feel so small.
Yeah.
Like they're just
thousands of years old.
I mean,
right?
they're just insanely. Yeah, they're just insanely big.
Yeah. When you take pictures like that, like when you went up the coast, is there a specific like vibe that you go for? Like do you have like a style, I guess, or do you just kind of take pictures and just edit them how you want?
I think I'm probably my own worst critic. Okay. I mean, I took probably like 3,500 photos while I was out west, but I probably only posted like 15.
Yeah.
I have so many photos. Yeah. But I there will always, I don't know. I still haven't gone through all of them, but there are a lot where I'll be like, oh, that's off just a little bit, and I don't want to post that. But I don't know. I guess my style is like I just want it to be like whimsical almost.
That's kind of how I feel about it.
Want it to be like, where is that? I want people to just like want to know, like, oh my God, like that's crazy. Where is he? Like, yeah. I guess that's kind of like just the goal.
Yeah, because some of the pictures, I mean, I'm just pumping you up here, but like some of the pictures I look at and I'm like, is that even real? Like it doesn't look real. And there's a specific picture I have in mind that I forget the exact, but the sun is kind of coming through. There's a bunch of trees. I think it was when you were on the West Coast. I could pull it up later.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. That was Redwoods.
Yeah,
with the mist and stuff and the fog. And
I'm like, geez, that doesn't even look like a real place.
I know. Yeah,
it's crazy.
And that's why the Redwoods were so amazing. Is that it's like. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily a very religious person, but if I were to ever talk to God, that would be the place.
That where you go?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It would be hard not to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's just so humbling. It really is.
Yeah. And this is completely different, but I saw that you used to work. Where'd you used to work? Like before the Bartolotta's, and there was like you worked at like a shelter or something, or volunteered at a shelter, or
so I've had a couple of jobs. Those were back in St. Louis, but I was working as a case manager for homeless and at-risk youth.
That's what I was.
So I was a case manager for homeless and at-risk youth in St. Louis. I had about like 15 kids on my caseload between the ages of like 13 and 20 to 21 years old.
How did you decide to do that and volunteer? Did you volunteer there at first?
No, I worked there. I worked there full time. Well, I have a degree in social work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went there. I had actually. The organization was Epworth Children and Family Services, and I had worked there part-time during an off year of college. Okay. I went my freshman year to Northland College, which is about 5.5 hours north of here in Ashland, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
And I was studying outdoor education.
Yeah,
I was studying outdoor education, and I kind of just decided that was not for me. Came back to St. Louis. I took an off year, and I worked part-time for Epworth Children and Family Services as a street outreach worker. Okay. Working with homeless youth.
Sure.
And that was what got me into social work. And that was what made me, I'm like, okay, I love this. This is like a good fit for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to school for social work. So that's what I went to school for. And then when I graduated, I was doing an internship for Lifeline, the suicide prevention hotline. So I was a crisis intervention specialist there for 2 years. And then I switched over to being a case manager again with Epworth Children and Family Services.
So what was that like working with kids like that? Was it tough?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the thing that's really frustrating is like when because I would like describe myself as a helper, like a helper type of person.
And you want to help so much, like all the time. You can't turn it off. Is that the kind of?
Well, it's not necessarily that you can't turn it off. It's that sometimes, you know, not just sometimes, like a lot of the time, I found that I wanted to help the kids that I was working with more than they wanted to help themselves.
Sure.
So, you know, for example, you know, they would come to you and their primary complaint would be, you know, that they were hungry and that they, you know, didn't have access to food, and, you know, you'd offer to drive them to, you know, a food pantry.
Sure.
Or, you know, set up an appointment for them to get, you know, sign up for food stamps.
Yeah.
And they just wouldn't show up. And it wouldn't be a matter of they didn't have transportation to get to where you were. It was I would drive to their house and wait in their driveway, or you know, the house that they were staying at. But or the shelter that they were staying at. It's to pick them up, to transport them, and they just wouldn't show up.
Okay.
So it did become, you know, very frustrating.
Yeah, I bet.
But I think that another part of that is that social workers are underpaid and overworked.
Oh, for sure.
So
and underappreciated.
Right. Yeah. And I think that ultimately that was what kind of pushed me away from social work, at least in St. Louis.
Yeah, because I can imagine like it's that like. I don't have kids, but my assumption is like if your kid is going through something and you're like a good parent and you're like, I just want to help you, but they don't want your help, but like I just want to help you, like come on.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah,